So, hey everyone, I'm Abhishek and with me is Aradhya. We are third year BTech students interning at Frappe right now. We got in through the GitHub externship program and we're going to talk about Pythonic query building. So, let's get started. So, our presentation is broadly divided into three parts: the current database engine, the upgrades we've introduced, and our plans for the future. Now, going ahead with the first one. The current database query engine obviously helps you talk to the database, and it's made to be as simple as it can be. Essentially, it's just a function call. You specify everything you need as arguments and it returns the data you need. Now you can already see the problem with this approach. There are currently 30 plus arguments in it, and that's still not enough to do everything. Adding hurt to injury, query construction itself is not Pythonic. I describe it as complicated at best. And this is exactly what makes it so hard to scale. Going ahead, now even with the 30 arguments you have, here's a list of things you still can't do with it. First, we have functions. Now, there is some support for it, but not everything. Not match against, for example. Next up, we have column comparison. So the problem here actually is that there is no way to specify what string is a column and what is just a string. DB query makes assumptions here which could go wrong. Thirdly, we have OR conditions. Again, there is a hacky way to do it, but it's not Pythonic or convenient. Summarizing the things I've said, DB query is too simple to be flexible. Now, this made sense when we had simple SQL operations, but now that we have about 300 raw SQL queries in the framework alone, there's clearly a need for a DB query that's more complex, that can do more. And that's why it's due for an upgrade. So here we have worked on frappe.qb. It's a query builder that's built on a package PyPickup. Now, there are three main parts to its operation. First, we define tables and columns. That's in the orange highlight. Then we make a query with it, like with SQL functions in green. And lastly, you change the run function to execute it. Now, going a little deeper into how this query is actually built. On the left, you can see the SQL query you just saw. The orange parts highlight the tables and columns, and the green parts highlight the query operations. On the right, we have frappe.qb. Now, to define your tables as variables, you can use frappe.qb.doctype, and it makes a table for you. But if you want the entire file to use it, you can just import the doctype function from frappe.querybuild. Now, in this example, we are creating doctype docshare as it is in the SQL query. To define your columns, you just chain the name of the column with the table object. In this example, that is share doctype. Now, this way, frappe.qb always knows which column we are talking about. Even if you're using multiple tables in the same query, you can always get the correct result. Now, coming to the actual query, the SQL query on the left retrieves a list of doc types, which are either owned by the user or shared with everyone publicly. Now, to write this with frappe.qb, first you start with frappe.qb.from, specify the table we defined in the last step, then you chain functions to it. So the next up we have select, which can give you chain every column you need basically, just as you would do it in SQL. Then we chain distinct, and after that the where function. I specifically want you to notice the where function argument. It's a logical operation, and that just means that you can use any operands that you would use in Python. For example, here the pipe symbol denotes OR, and so printing this query right now would give you the actual SQL query we have constructed. But as soon as you chain the run function to it, it would execute and give you the data we have. Now, Aradhya would take over.
Yeah, am I audible?
Yep.
Yeah, so why did we choose to go with the query builder over the conventional database API that exists? So first of all, FrappeQB is scalable and supports multiple SQL dialects. So this has been a problem when we were trying to migrate and introduce more databases and support them. This was a huge factor that wasn't allowing us the raw SQL queries because of the subtle changes in the dialects. And some complex functions as well, they differ in different dialects. Also, FrappeQB is optimized. It is optimized in a manner that it has no extra memory footprints, like some large ORM APIs such as SQL Alchemy. FrappeQB is also a very mature API, as in it supports a wide range of SQL operations and provides methods for easy integration of custom operations as well. So when we said that we were having a scope of multiple databases, how would FrappeQB provide support for that? FrappeQB is built on Pypica, which supports multiple SQL dialects. It handles subtle things such as grave codes that are present in suppose MariaDB and not in PostgreSQL. So and some function calls that are different for different databases. So this is handled internally by FrappeQB. Also, it is compatible with 8 databases: PostgreSQL, MSSQL, Oracle, just to mention a few. Yeah, so complex SQL done right. The Frappe framework right now exists of 300 plus raw queries, and a lot of those queries are very complex joins and other complex SQL functions, which can't be directly handled by the current ORM or the current database API. So, so just to give you an example of how this could be done in a very Pythonic manner, Abhishek told you about the doc type. You can similarly get a table into a Python variable, and you could just chain the join function on it, and you can specify the index that you want to join on. Like here, we are joining on user tables name column and role tables name column wherever they are equal, and we select the user's index where role's name is administrator. So running this would give us the SQL output as shown below, and you could just change the run function to this to actually get the data. Now this gave it a very Pythonic representation to a very complex SQL query. Yeah, so also what have been the upgrades made to the current Frappe ORM? Frappe ORM that consists of functions that execute database level queries such as get values, get count, delete, etc. Now they support a wide range of filters, like how Ankush mentioned the filter operations. They now support a wider range. Filters can be in the form of dictionaries, lists, or criterion objects, which are just FrappleQB objects, um, thus allowing us a little more flexibility with the filters. It supports complex SQL functions and allows easy integration for custom functions. So if in case there are no, if there are some SQL functions that aren't supported within the library, you can easily import a function called custom function and build your own functions on top of that. This is all now possible as FrappeQB is doing all the heavy lifting under the hood and has been implemented under majority of the database wide operations. So where do we go from here? In the past few months that Abhishek and I have been working on this database API, and we have tried to remodel it. So we realized that there are a few blockades in front of us that need to be addressed, like the raw SQL queries and just the way that the query building is handled within Frappe. So replacing all SQL queries from the framework with either the database API or FrappleQB itself, to be a little more, that would make it a little more Pythonic, as well as we would get the option of adding more complex queries in a very simple manner, and also implementing a unified query building engine to the framework. So right now Frappe stands at a point where they have two query building engines. One is FrappleQB and one is a database query API. So we are planning on implementing FrappleQB under the hood for everything, so that it gives us a wider range of filter operations or complex SQL, as well as provides easy migration abilities to other databases that we want to introduce later down the line. So since FrappleQB is compatible with a lot of databases, so it'll be easier if everything under the hood uses FrappleQB. So yeah, lastly, I'd just like to mention working as interns at Frappe. We have been working for 5 months, and it's been great experience. We have tackled a lot of problems that we didn't think that we could fix, but yeah, at the end of it, it was a great journey. Um, and yeah, so we'd be open for any questions that you might have now. And also, just before we go to that, we would really like to thank Gavin, as Gavin was one of our mentor while we joined Frappe and we were working here, and he introduced us to a lot of new things that we didn't know about and the things that we wouldn't learn in college, and Gavin taught them to us in a very simple manner. So yeah, thanks Gavin. And yeah, here we will take questions now, if any.
Thank you. Thank you, Abhishek and Aradhya. Um, any questions? Add them in the chat.